The Impressionist movement, though brief, lasting only about 20 years, is one of the most well-known movements in art history and one of the earliest modern movements to circulate well beyond its place of origin. You might be familiar with Japonism, the influence of traditional Japanese art on the works of many well-known European artists like Vincent van Gogh, Marie Cassatt, and James McNeill Whistler. But what about the exchange of inspiration the other way? Today we will look at the story of how French Impressionism crossed the world, landed in Japan, and quietly transformed itself, and more importantly, why Japan led it. Art history makes you notice every detail, every subtle brilliance, but sometimes I overanalyze life the same way. Some days I end up living only in my mind, unable to leave. I remember sitting down on a weekend to work on something for about an hour. Not because I got anything done, but because I kept rereading and reassessing and researching one more thing, one more line. When I looked up, it was 5 hours later. My day came to an end without me. That's why I turned to therapy to learn the skills I need so as to not let my life pass me by. I think that's something all of us can relate to. We're constantly in motion, juggling work, school, personal and social obligations. Life can feel like a series of to-do lists rather than moments we get to experience. That's why I want to take a moment for this paid partnership with BetterHelp. I've done therapy myself, and to be honest, it wasn't always easy getting started. Living in a society that constantly measures success by productivity and achievements makes it hard to slow down, and it makes it easy to forget that stillness has value too. But having someone to talk to has really helped me sort through things I didn't even realize I had been afraid to face. BetterHelp, which connects you with a credentialed therapist online, through video, phone, or even messaging, is one way of taking that first step. So if you've ever felt like having that kind of space to reflect and process might help you in your life, you can learn more by visiting betterhelp.com/behindthemasterpiece or using the link on the screen and the description. Not only will you be supporting this channel, but you'll also get 10% off your first month's therapy with BetterHelp. Now let's get back to the video. It's 1868, and while Impressionism is just beginning to take form in France, Japan is ending more than 2 centuries of military rule under the Tokugawa shogunate. The emperor is restored to power during what's known as the Meiji Restoration, and the country immediately pivots towards modernization, new political systems, industrial development, and Western education. The government adopts a slogan that sums it all up: civilization and enlightenment. And art was a crucial field in this modernization. In 1876, the School of Arts and Technology, now closed, was founded in Tokyo, staffed initially by Italian instructors, such as Antonio Fontanesi. Although Fontanesi's romantic realism predated Impressionism, his emphasis on plein-air painting, the act of painting outdoor, and tonal variation helped to plant the seed that would later align with Impressionist tendencies. At the same time, the Japanese state began sponsoring artists to study in Europe. These state-funded journeys were not acts of passive assimilation, but rather strategic missions to equip Japanese painters with the tools they needed for representing their country on the global stage. It was through these exchanges that Japanese artists directly encountered French Impressionism in its birthplace and gradually began incorporating its visual characteristics into their own works. Let's start with Takahashi Yuichi, who is often considered the father of yoga or Western-style paintings in Japan. He was one of the earliest Japanese artists to engage directly with this style during the late Edo and early Meiji periods. Though the majority of his works were done before the official flourishing of Impressionism in Japan, Takahashi's introduction of realism, chiaroscuro, a technique of emphasizing the stark difference between light and shade, and use of oil medium, laid important groundwork for later Impressionist adoption. He believed that a Western artistic style could actually help, not hinder, the building of a Japanese national identity. Despite having no formal art education, he was appointed as a professor at Tokyo School of Arts and Technology. His 1877 still life, Salmon, doesn't necessarily look Impressionist yet. The brushwork is controlled, and the composition is restrained. Yet what is different is the artist's approach to seeing and representing the world. Painted on Western-style paper, we see a single fish suspended from a straw rope, lit from a light source on the right. Yuichi paints the texture of the painting with remarkable sensitivity. The rope and the head and the body of the fish are done with thicker layers of oil paint, which helps to suggest the firmness of the flesh and the coarse fibers of the rope. By contrast, the background, the tail, and the cut surface of the fish are handled more loosely, with the color of the paper and the underlying paint peeking through. This shift between dense and loose areas gives the composition a steady rhythm from head to tail and prevents the scene from feeling rigid or overworked. The painting's convincing realism reflects the influence of Antonio Fontanesi, under whom the artist studied. Yet at the same time, it speaks to Yuichi's determination to master Western techniques at a moment when oil painting was still foreign in Japan. In this way, Salmon marks an early and deliberate step in Japan's engagement with Western painting. Kuroda Seiki was an artist and teacher who was greatly involved in bringing yoga to a wider Japanese audience. He was sent to Paris in 1884 to study law, but soon after switched to painting. He trained under Raphael Collin, a French academic painter with ties to more progressive tendencies, including naturalism and proto-impressionist colorism. When he returned to Japan a decade later, Seiki introduced techniques and ideas that challenged Nihonga, or traditional Japanese-style paintings. His advocacy for painting outdoors, choosing lighter palettes, and depicting everyday subject matter was met with resistance from conservative critics. But it did resonate with younger artists who were seeking a visual language for modern life. His painting, Lakeside, is regarded as a landmark of Japanese Impressionism. In it, we see a contemplative woman sit against the shimmering waters of a lake that fills more than half of the canvas. Seiki's brushwork is fluid yet controlled, and the palette, consisting of soft blues, greens, and whites, recalls the tonal harmonies of Claude Monet's later work. Unlike French Impressionism's urban dynamism, however, Seiki's scene here emphasizes stillness and introspection, qualities often associated with Japanese aesthetics. The female subject, with her face in three-quarter, is looking into the distance at something or someone not privy to us. She is wearing a blue-striped kimono and holds a paper fan in her right hand. There's an attachment to Japan's national identity with these choices, even as the painter employs foreign techniques. Seiki's other work, his 1893 Morning Toilette, was accepted and praised by the Académie des Beaux-Arts in Paris. It was the first ever nude painting to be exhibited in Japan, with the hopes that it would shatter the Japanese prejudice against the depiction of the nude figure. Unfortunately, it was destroyed in World War II. Seiki's leadership at the Tokyo Fine Art School and the Hakubakai, an association of Japanese yoga practitioners, established institutional pathways for Impressionism to take root in Japan. His synthesis of Western formalism with Japanese sensitivity laid the foundation for a generation of hybrid modernists. Fujishima Takagi, a contemporary of Seiki, was also trained in Europe and brought back with him not only the Impressionist language, but also the romantic tendencies of late 19th century French painting. After studying under Fernand Cormon at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, Takagi developed a style that blended luminous color and atmospheric effects with elegant, often idealized subjects. His 1932 painting, Sunrise over the Eastern Sea, was commissioned by Japan's 124th emperor during the Showa period, Emperor Hirohito. The subject matter of a sunrise was a way of celebrating the emperor's accession, and so Takagi traveled from Zhao to the then Japanese colony of Taiwan in the south in search of sunrises. He spent a decade exploring this theme. Here we see a scene that consists only of the sky and the sea except for the sailboat. The composition is simple, subtle color planes of a limited color palette that create a serene atmosphere. The sunrise isn't even shown, it's hinted at, which draws our attention to the universal cycle of the day beginning rather than the sun itself. The painting is almost an abstract composition of color fields, with only a handful of shades used. Its simplicity, however, is not a shortfall of any sort. but a deliberate choice by the artist to remove unnecessary elements so that what truly matters is all that remains. Takashi's Impressionism was not radical in the Parisian sense. His aim wasn't to rebel against tradition, but instead to elevate Japan's cultural prestige by aligning its visual arts with global innovations. Okada Saburosuke was an artist who brought an introspective dimension to Japanese Impressionism. He trained in France and later became a founding member of the Japan Art Institute, which was a non-governmental artistic organization based in Tokyo. He was particularly influenced by the gentle realism of the works of Jules Bastien-Lepage, which bridged the movements of naturalism and Impressionism. In Portrait of a Lady, we see our subject dressed in a Genroku-era style kimono, holding a drum she's about to strike. Behind her is a rinpa-style folding screen, shimmering with the school's signature luxurious aesthetic. Pink and red blossoms are painted here with loose brushstrokes. Though beautiful and traditionally Japanese, the background is meant to build a mood rather than be a representation of a recognizable setting. This piece was commissioned by Takahashi Yuichi, a manager of a drapery store. The figure we see here is actually his wife, Chiyoko. Our subject is painted with a sensitivity to the effects of light on her skin and clothing, yet without the overt flickering or spontaneity of French Impressionism. Originally titled Study in Purple for the purple chords that are lacing the drum, this piece won the artist's first prize at the Tokyo Industrial Exhibition in 1907 and was later even used on postage stamps. Saburosuke's work marks a transition from the high formalism of the Meiji period to the more personal, contemplative tone of Impressionism that would define the Taisho period that came next. Wada Eisaku, another student of Kuroda Seiki, was an influential educator at the Tokyo Fine Art School and supported the further institutionalization of Impressionist techniques in Japan. Though his style maintained academic boundaries, he incorporated Impressionist brushwork and color theory to explore form and atmosphere. We can see that here in his portrait, Old Woman. Our titular subject is placed on the left side of the canvas, bending down as she walks towards the right with an umbrella assisting her. She wears a traditional Japanese kimono in purple as she walks by the water, glistening in the setting sun. Eisaku's brushstrokes convey a softness around the figure's face, blending shadow and light to suggest volume without heavy academic modeling. His controlled palette employs muted earth tones, punctuated by delicate highlights of yellow, orange, and purple. There are no other elements, it's just her and the nature that surrounds her, yet she's not shown observing it. No, she seems almost inseparable from it as she goes on with her day, occupying her own unique path in this dance. Japanese Impressionism was never a straightforward transplant of French aesthetics. While it adopted techniques such as broken brushwork, the study of natural light, and painting outdoors, it often retained thematic or structural elements rooted in Japanese tradition. After all, it's not easy to delicately balance cultural negotiations between two very traditional countries. French Impressionism was often concerned with the fleeting light, the urban and the modern settings and subjects, while its Japanese counterpart gravitated towards harmony, introspection, and timelessness. The tension between modern techniques and traditional values is evident in the subject matter, compositional framing, and even color symbolism employed by Japanese artists. The rise of nationalism in the early 20th century further encouraged Japanese artists to frame their use of Western styles as a part of a larger project of national pride. In this sense, Impressionism became a vehicle for both aesthetic exploration and political and cultural assertion. If you ever want to dive into the ideas and art history rabbit holes that don't quite fit the shape of a YouTube video, head over to my Substack, link in the description, for weekly posts. Thank you for watching, always. And don't forget to like and subscribe, it really does help support this channel.